So in order to balance the budget, the city manager along with the city council cut the following to help achieve their goal. And this one was 19 jobs. I don't think, I mean, I'm not, they called it that they couldn't fill them, so we're just gonna get rid of them. That was the excuse. But yet you go talk to police, so not only did they have that 19 jobs, they still have 22 jobs that they need to have filled right now as well. That doesn't include those that are 21 jobs. That doesn't include officers that are gonna be leaving on their own, whether it's through retirement, relocating, or they get terminated. I mean, that's a possibility of life. You know, not that they're a bad cop, but if they don't follow the rules, same thing with the police or the fireman. I'm sure his boss, they don't follow the rules, these guys not gonna keep people around. They want good quality people. We've got that, so we wanna make sure that we keep them as well. Okay, so here's an example, and I kinda got my idea from Mr. Talley here. So I went locally, these are the starting salaries of other people. So KPD starts here at 48,000, just call it, okay? Round Rock starts at 52,000. Austin is called 59. Waco starts at call it 52.5. That's a big difference. Now the closest one is Round Rock, and only call it $3,000 or $4,000 difference, but the others are substantial. So if you're at a work rally where they come in to try and get employment, and everything looks good, man, KPD's at the top of the list, but then they get a salary, and they say, wow, this guy, I can make $5,000 or $8,000 more right from day one. What are you gonna do? You're gonna do what's right for you and your family, and probably go somewhere else. So that's the reason we want to make sure that these guys aren't asking to be paid top paid. They're asking to be paid competitively. And he'll tell you the same thing. They're not asking for top wages. They just want to be paid competitively. That does two things. You start off with getting good people to start with, and more importantly, you keep them. We've trained them, we need to keep them. We do not want to be the recruitment agency for all the other cities and municipalities around in our area here. So retention is something that's very important. Then we get into the fire. Now, the other night we had, this is not here, but I'll just go over with you real quick to give you an example. We had a city, at the city hall, they're gonna get ready to get a fire engine, which is great, long overdue, okay? But they had to make a choice. They asked for ambulances to start with, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, initially in the budget, the evening budget, we put in for both ambulances and a fire truck, and we were told we'd have one or the other, so the chief made the decision that ambulances were the higher priority at that point in time. And then, as the year went on, you know, our fleet is pretty aged, and it became apparent that while we still need the ambulances, we do need the fire truck to replace the fire truck that we lost a couple years back, and because the engine that they're in has 140,000 miles on it, which may not, you know, you and me in our personal vehicle, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of miles, but 140,000 miles on a fire engine is a lot. Most departments get rid of them or move them into reserve status around the 90,000 mark. Wow. And we have two that are frontline that are in that over 100,000 mark, and all of our reserves are over.
And there's a ton on the pump as well, they were saying?
Yeah, so, and then the other thing, the bigger indicator of how long we've been used is engine hours, because a lot of our time, you know, when we get to a fire scene, we're not still driving around, but we've got that engine idled up because that's what runs our fire pump, so it's got a lot of hours on it, and I'm not gonna tell you how many hours on it, because I couldn't tell you, but
It was a lot.
It's a lot, but I know the mileage.
Yeah.
Because most people relate to that a lot better than
Right.
than engine hours, but it's a ton of engine hours.
So that's engine hours on top of the miles, because there's no miles when you run, but there's still, the engine still has wear and tear
Right.
while you're there, so that's on top of the miles.
Yeah, that's, when like I said, we go to fires, we've got it revved up because, like I said, that's what, it's a takeoff drive that powers our fire pump that lets us get water out. When we go to calls with the ambulance, it sits out there and idles while we're helping out. If it's, you know, a CPR, if it's a stroke, if it's, you know, any other kind of medical call, it's always sitting there idling, which they're diesel engines. It's not as bad as if you just let your gasoline engine
Right,
but it's still a lot of wear on the engines.
So the point of this is, and if you just listen to what he said, they had a need, then another need kind of overshadowed the other need. It's not a want, it's a need. So they have a need for ambulances and fire trucks, not one, but both. But one supplants the other one currently, but they will take both if they can get both right now.
Absolutely, like Placidio said, the ambulances need is still there. We have ambulances right now that have over 200,000 miles on them, which is, again, for you and me, that's a lot of miles on a vehicle. And these are vehicles that are running really hard to a scene, and then sitting and idling, and then running really hard to the hospital. You know, they don't get that warm-up time like you want to start your car, let it sit there idle for a minute, let the oil circulate. It's turn it on and go.
And go hard.
And go hard. And go hard often.
Right.
Because, you know, we I think last year we ran 18,000 EMS calls.
I'm gonna show
Are
you.
you? Okay.
I'm sure that's it.
Okay, well, I'm getting ahead of,
No, that's fine.
getting ahead of them then.
So, but again, the point is, and I'm trying to bring this, is that I don't want them to have to make the lesser of the two evils, so to speak, because they need both. So right now, we are having to only give them one. Yes, ma'am?
Well, not only that, but if you're gonna add housing and more houses, that means more people. If you have more people, you need more ambulances and more fire trucks. I mean, it's just simple math.
Absolutely. The industry standard set by the NFPA is one fire station per 10,000 population.
Which we just met now. Barely.
Not quite.
Not quite. We have
Yeah.
8 stations, and we have 147, 150, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
And I've heard even
We're
higher
running
than
about
that.
16,000, one for 16,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we would like to be closer to that number. We understand. You know, it's a numbers game. It's a what can the city afford. But I don't know if he's going to talk about it. But you know, last year we lost about 33 employees for various reasons. A lot of them went to a different department, and that's because they can. It's just like he said about the police officers. If you're going through at a job fair and you're looking at all the packages and get to the compensation part and the workload, if you can start out making more and running less calls, because we are we're the biggest fire department from Austin to Dallas, and we're the busiest. You know, why not go to Round Rock or to Georgetown or Waco and make a little bit more money and save the stress and wear and tear on your body and your family in the process?
And I think that's something that people don't think about. It's more than just the money. It is literally the stress on the mind. I mean, we all talk about having jobs that were stressful, whatever. These guys are seeing horrific things.
Life and death.
Okay? They deal with life and death on a daily basis typically. And then if there's a catastrophic event that they happen to go to, and they're seeing, it's like being in combat and seeing, you know, if you've never seen that, it's a horrific sight. And these guys are subjected to this voluntarily, of course, because it's something they love to do. But nonetheless, that wears on you. So that's the emotional and mental aspect that's not really thought about by people. Because all it boils down to is money, 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 money. And there's much more to it, I think, than that as well. So, you know, we want to make sure that they don't have to make a choice. And I'm going to give you an example why. So they're going with the fire truck because that's the need. But here's what's going on. Okay? And their training budget got cut as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I don't know exactly how much, but it went from a triple digit number to a double digit
Right.
number. Or, I'm sorry, a 6-digit number to a 5-digit number.
So so it's a significant. We're not talking 100,000 to 950,000. Okay, I mean 1 million to 900 or whatever, you know, like that, or 100,000 to say 85,000. That we're not going from that 6 to that 5. We're talking it's substantial. Okay, so my point with bringing the two together is this: you know, their budget's been cut, and so they need a 9th ambulance. So if you don't have a 9th ambulance, the workload increases. And I'm going to show you another graph here in a minute, which is going to show what that is. And when you see it, it's like, wow. Again, because it's things that we don't think about. So we want to make sure. Their response time now, this may have changed last time I spoke to you, is 6:48. Has it changed any?
It's probably right around the same.
Okay.
Yeah, not much has changed.
Okay, the standard is 4. And it's not some arbitrary number that's picked. It's for a reason. Typically, 4 minutes, if they can get to you, they can save your life from almost anything that you've experienced. Okay, that's happened to your body. Now, that's not to guarantee you're gonna be 100% intact, but you got a good chance of it. After 4 minutes, it's kind of like a Richter scale. Each number is significant. Okay, significant. So we want to make sure that this is the number they get. Well, they can't get to this number unless they get another one of these.
Well, especially if they keep building houses.
Okay, so this is what they need as well. We need to make sure that we get and make sure we hold our councilmen and women accountable for what they're spending. It goes back to that as well. There's no money, but yet we have hike and bike. There's none this, but we got a golf course. There's none this, but they're talking about spending $500,000 on new offices for the councilman chambers. Now, do they need that? In my opinion, no, they don't need that. Would it be nice? Of course it'd be nice. Could they do another couple of years without it? I think they could live without it. That's just my opinion. So this is the number we want to get to. So these numbers represent lives. That's why I'm saying these affect us. We don't want it to affect you or any member of your family in a direct manner because you had a family member or a friend needed some response time. They couldn't get there on time, or streets were bad, or. So we want to make sure that we cover all those ors the best that we can, okay? So we want to make sure that in the city of Killeen, these numbers could represent life of a loved one or a friend because the fire EMS couldn't get where they needed to go due to lack of resources and aid to their jobs, okay? I'm tired of hearing council people, because this is where it gets bad. If you've got a person saying over here, we're fine, we don't need cops, we don't need nothing. But yet I go talk to policemen, oh yeah, we need more police officers, we need more of this. I go over here and I talk to the firemen, oh my goodness, yeah, we could use this, that, and the other. But yet we've got our leaders, oh, we're fine, we don't need nothing. I don't get that. I don't get that. Because that's willful misleading of your citizens. And it's almost criminal, in my opinion. Because you're misleading citizens, so when you talk to them, oh no, we're fine. Because they're believing the leaders of our city without knowing. Now, of course, they should do their due diligence, but they don't. We should, in theory, be able to believe our leaders. We all know that's not necessarily true. So I don't want to condemn anybody by names, and I'm not going to. But each one of us should do our due diligence to make sure that our council members are doing what they're supposed to do. Here's the fire budget. In 16, they had just shy of 20 million. In 17, they got a nice little bump of about 2.5 million.
I can talk about that bump if you want.
Okay, 1 second. And but then they got knocked down again, about $1.5 million for right now. So they got a bump, and then they got it taken away from them, not even a year later. So how can this guy, or his bosses, but he's the one who has to live with this stuff, but they're too busy up and down to figure out what you're going to do. You can't really plan for things if you don't know if you're not going to be able to have it. Or we've planned for it because we thought we were going to get it, and now we don't have it because it's not in the budget anymore. That is demoralizing. Very much demoralizing. Job-wise, they got hit with the one that we had discussed. So it's clear to see the fire department has significant cuts from their budget. They got an increase, and then they got it taken back not even a year later. They lost the one job. So the number one responsibilities I was telling the council members is to provide for that safety to citizens, to ensure that the roads are maintained. Because it's not just for us, it's for them as well. Okay? Those vehicles, as we well know, they just bought a fire engine that is, what did you say, middle of the road more or less?
Yeah.
That is $600,000. It's a lot of money. But I'm sure if you ask him, would he rather have that one that was for $800,000 because it's really that much better of a fire engine? Because in the end, not everything really does everything the way everything else does either. We all know that. So yes, could you speak to this, please?
Sure. That 2016 is where we got our SAFER grant. So that bump that you see isn't tax dollars. That's federal money coming in from.
For those of you who can't see, I'm sorry. This is the grant you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's the federal tax dollars that we got for getting awarded SAFER grant for 37 positions because we used Open Station 9 as well as a few other things. And then when that funding, when that grant period ended is where you see the drop. But we had to keep the salaries for those 37 people, so where we cut from was our training budget, like you've already talked about. We knocked our overtime budget down to 0, which sounds like a good thing. Like, a lot of people think, oh, that's great, you're not spending any overtime, but unfortunately, the fire department doesn't run like a normal business. If somebody calls in, somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm not gonna be there to work on my computer, to work on the computer, whatever, it's like, okay, cool, you can make up that work tomorrow. We've gotta fill that seat. Somebody's gotta be there to ride that truck, to ride that ambulance. So, when we start out with a 0 overtime budget, we already know that there's no way that you can operate a fire department. There's no way you can operate any fire department in any part of the city, or in any city in the country.
No.
So that's the city.
$0.
So really, when we put that 0 there, we just lied. We know that.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, because another thing that they're not being less than truthful is that we have a lot of grants that we're working with. Let me tell you something about grants. Yeah, they're good, but there's no guarantee with a grant.
Right.
Because every time you do it, you gotta start all over just like everybody else does. Just because you got it once doesn't mean you're gonna get it
There you
again,
go, reapply.
okay? So if you don't cross the T's, you don't dot the I's, or you do something, that's a crucial mistake. That could cost you that grant. So we've got a lot of grants that the city has gotten and gets, but I don't know if we're planning for when these things run out, because even grants have an expiration,
Oh, yeah.
okay? Even grants have an expiration date, so depends on how long they are. They renew them for a while. But are we planning for that? And that's a question that we need to find the answers to. We have too many unknown factors that are resulting in large amounts of money that impact